Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh, I am back. I am so sorry. It's been a couple of months at least. Oh my gosh. I'm like, I've got to get a video done. I'm back. Yay. Um, but thank you so much for watching. This is Cosmic Metamorphosis. My name is Kat. Um, Thank you for tuning in today. Um, Thank you to all my subscribers, my soul family. I love you. I've missed you. I've just been working a whole lot. I've actually, our manager left our store, so I've kind of stepped up temporarily as a key holder to help. So the month of June is going to be very, very busy for me. So my hours have changed. I've gone from 32 hours a week to 38, 36 to 38. So I'm not going to have 3 days off anymore. I'm going to have my normal 2 days off like everybody else. And my hours have changed from 7 to 4 to 9 to 6. So kind of sucks for me. My family doesn't like the fact that I'm not home at night to make dinner. So we don't normally eat dinner now till like 8 o'clock, which is awful. I hate that. That's retail though. So anyway, um, I hope all of you have been doing well. I know there's been a lot of stuff hitting the fan. Holy crap. Like ever since ever since the aurora, we had the aurora here. That's right. It's been a couple months. I haven't talked to you guys. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, we had the aurora here in northern Idaho, and it was wonderful. We didn't get to really see it dance, but the colors, like you really couldn't see too much of the brightness of it until your camera took a picture. So, yeah, I got a few pictures of that. um, that was, yeah, something that was phenomenal, and it just happened all over the world. My take on that is that, all these people were trying to say, oh, it was HARP induced, HARP did it, blah, blah, blah. And that's not the feeling I'm getting. The feeling that I'm getting is like, this is a true phenomenon, okay? All over the world, this was an event, okay? They're trying to shut down that it wasn't a natural thing, that our father son was giving Mother Earth energy and encoding during this time. And so they just try and write it off like, oh, everything's done by HARP. So I call bullshit on that. This was a natural thing, and it was spectacular to see. So, also, if you haven't seen the Old World Order documentary by Sean Hibbler, um, there's a lot of different old world people on that documentary. I'll try and put the link below. Go and watch it. It is fabulous. In fact, I want to do a video on some of my theories of Tartaria. So tune in for that. I have lots of notes and things I want to talk about. Um, I have kind of made a decision, though, and some of you may not be happy. With me working so much lately, I really don't have time to transcribe Alex's webinars anymore. At this point, anyway. So today we're doing September 22nd. I'm like 8 months behind now. We're doing September 22nd from 2023. So this is the last full one I'm going to do, at least for a while. I might just start doing the first hour of his webinars instead of all the question and answers at the end of it. Because like I said, when his webinars started and they were only an hour, hour and a half, that was fine. And I was able to do that and stay on top of it. But working as much as I am going to be working, and then with so much going on in the world and just life, and I feel like time has flown by like craziness. I feel like it was just Valentine's Day. It was just Christmas. It was just, things are speeding up so fast, like we don't have time. And I see a lot of people on TikTok that are like, they're just fed up. They're fed up with going to work every day. Like you wake up to an alarm, you go to your work, you don't get to see your family, your friends. You work all day, you exhaust yourself, you come home, you barely get something to eat, and then you go to bed, and then you wake up and you repeat this whole thing all over again. And time is just speeding up, speeding up, speeding up. And a lot of us are hitting that precipice. We're like, fuck this. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't, we're just surviving in this slave society. So I know a lot of you are feeling it. I'm feeling it too, and everything is speeding up, and I just don't have enough time to do it all. So I'm going to try maybe this summer, and I'm just gonna do some videos that I want to do as far as information, getting information out to you guys. So hopefully you'll stay with me. Hopefully as things progress, and maybe at some point if I'm able to, I don't know, change my work status or something, then maybe I can get back to doing Alex's webinars. So anyway, and I wanted to show you this cute little glass blown dragon. I went to our festival in town back in April. It was called the Art Under the Elms. Look at the cute little dragon. He looks like a little seahorse. Isn't it cute? Oh my gosh. I wanted to buy him last year and I didn't get a chance. And so this year I was like, I'm getting a dragon. So I got my little dragon. Isn't he cute? So I think I named him Hamish. His name is Hamish. So anyway, that was really cute. Anyway, okay. Also follow with all this Tartaria stuff. I found a really good channel. I really like his channel a lot. It's called My Lunch Break on YouTube. He has fascinating videos and he has really good points. Really, really good points about these old world buildings. How did they construct these buildings without any electricity back then? How were they able to lift heavy concrete, marble pillars? How did they move that in these horse and carts on dirt roads? It talks about airships, and there's just all kinds of fascinating stuff on his channel. And he's finally reached, like, his channel has exploded over the last couple months. So now he's past 100,000 subscribers, and he's going to do next week or the week after, he's going to do an hour-long video. So check him out, My Lunch Break on YouTube. Okay, so today we're going to do Alex Collier's number 192, My 101, from September 22nd of 2023. So he says, live from my kitchen table. Kind of laughs. He says, hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. He says, this doesn't happen without you, obviously. Just a couple of office notes. Said, those who have donated, I don't know who you are just yet. I will on Monday. My PayPal was hacked through my checking account, he says, at my local bank. So everything had to be shut down, and I've had to reboot everything. He says different accounts, different account numbers, etc. He says it should be squared away Monday or Tuesday. So for those of you who haven't heard from me, it's because I don't know. It was a bad hack. He says it was a very, very bad hack. He says, I was targeted. He says, and it goes with the territory. It's been this way for 30 plus years. So just please have some patience. And the first of next week, I will certainly get back to you. He says, there's so much noise. There's so much information that I think a lot of this is intentional because they realize, having programmed us for years and years and years, you get overwhelmed with so much information or nonsense that what happens is that most of us just turn off. Absolutely. We just turn it off. We turn off the noise and we just say, screw it. It says, and we ignore it and we ignore what's going on. And I think that's what they hope will happen now because of so much disclosure of information is coming out regarding everything. And guys, I know this is from September of last year, but like I said, I still like doing them because he has a lot of things that still are, in effect today, which is, all right, now it's June 2nd today. So I still like giving you this information. He says history, medicine, technology, personages, religion. He says there's just so much information coming out. And what they're doing is they're burying it because they can't stop it. They're burying it with noise and nonsense. The only suggestion I have, and the only reason I suggest this, is that that's what I have to do, is I will have to look at it quickly, and depending upon my first reaction to it, I make a decision to stick with the story or not and move on. Absolutely, right? You kind of get that feeling, you resonate with it or you don't. He says, and I suggest most of you do that as well. You trust your first instinct, your first gut instinct. He says it's usually right, okay? It's usually right because you're not thinking about what it is. He says, which means it's your intuition is up front. It's not your mind telling you. He says, well, wait a minute. Da 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 da. So you have to remember this. This is a spiritual journey. All of this, everything that we've done, everything that we're going to do, everything we've done in the past lives, he says it should have been about the spiritual journey. It hasn't, because they have thrust us into the matrix and made everything about survival. And when you're in survival, you have moments of spiritual clarity, but not a lot of people do, or at least not enough. And they get all wound up. And then when they unwind, it's usually at that point where they've made this incredible crisis, dark night of the soul, or the death of a family member or a child, God forbid, or they're at that storm and suddenly they just let everything go. And then they get all the clarity that they should have had throughout their lifetimes. He says, this is virtually all of us. Says so. Now there's some information, and we don't like to call out names here, but there was a video put out by a gentleman, says, that talked about the EBS on October 4th, and to turn off all your phones for a couple of hours. And you don't listen because they're going to do this frequency thing, and it's going to trigger all the graphene oxide in everybody's body and yada, yada, yada. Says, let me make this perfectly clear to you. The only way that would work would be if the 5G towers were on. And we know now nothing happened, right? Nothing happened on that day. So Alex is right. They're not turned on. The 5G is not turned on. And he says, and ladies and gentlemen, they're not on. 5G towers are not on. They're not even on in China because they're deadly and they know this, okay? So that's fake news. That fear thing is fake news. Just want you to know that. So that's what I try to live my life by. Anything that's fear-based and trying to create fear, I don't listen to it. I don't, because that's not my reality. That's not what I want. I'm thinking of an outcome that's going to be for everybody on this planet, that everybody's going to come together, that we're all going to help each other, and we're going to have abundance for everyone, and we're going to be able to do what we want. Okay, that's what I'm envisioning. He says Cliff High and Dave Algier did a video together talking about what Cliff has been getting in his software program. And what question was he getting with his remote viewers? And they talk about a life-changing event that would occur between now and April 1st, or the first week of April. And I when I was writing this, I put solar eclipse, life-changing event. Something happened during that, and things started changing for sure. He says they're not at all sure where it is, but what's interesting is that two of the targets that they believe they see, and these were in totally separate operations, both those targets they think they see are in Colorado. One would be Cheyenne Mountain, which was built to withstand a nuclear hit, and the other's DIA, Denver International Airport. Now, I have no idea if this is true or what's going to happen, which we know nothing did. Although certain people say they were putting something up there during the eclipse. And a lot of people speculate whether that was a true eclipse or not. And I'm not sure. I think I haven't talked to you guys about that, have I? The eclipse that happened last September, I was at work and I was able to get a picture on my cell phone through a welder's lens, okay? And it was a beautiful picture. You could see it. This time around, when I tried, nothing came out. You couldn't see it with the naked eye. I put my welder's lens up to my camera, and I took pictures, and there was nothing there. The only way I could see it was the little reflection of your lens. There was a little bite taken out of it. So something was off about that, because I'm like, okay, I got the eclipse in September perfectly fine with that lens. And this time I was not able to catch it at all. There was nothing there. So I really wonder what the heck was really up there. Although, like, we know Yellow Rose for Texas, if you followed me for a while and I talked about a lot of her stuff, she talked about them putting a firewall in front of our sun. And who was I listening to the other day? Oh my God, I made notes and I can't remember, but yeah, like they put a firewall. So the simulation, the sun simulator is in front of our real sun. So we're still getting like the flares off the normal sun, but the sun simulator is in front of the sun. And I think that's why, like I said, we've had some really hot summers, and when it's 100 something, it like burns. It literally burns, fries all your plants outside. Like all mine died in the heat. It didn't matter how much you watered either. They just died. And that never, 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 never used to happen. So anyway, but we know nothing happened really in that area. So he says, now I have no idea if this is true or what's going to happen. Maybe the fact that it's out there now, maybe they won't even try it. So maybe that's why. We will go into martial law, and the white hats will do what they need to do to stop this kind of thing. But let me just share something that a lot of people don't know about Denver International Airport. It's a massive airport, and it's a very strange airport. Weird paintings, yes, weird murals all over, weird things in this place. And he says it's just best to move through it and go to your next destination. But what's really interesting is that it's at least 7 levels deep into the ground. And ever since Obama left office in 2016, they have been moving the National Archives from DC and surrounding area, Virginia, Maryland, to underground Denver International Airport. Okay. says that's where it's all being stored. There's many tunnels. There's the railway system. There's the underground railway system. All runs through Denver International Airport. And the way they were built, the way they built this thing, he says, is they used multiple different contractors to do one specific thing. And when that thing was done, they moved them out and brought in other contractors to do add-ons or attach, etc. Or they used their own people, their own construction people, Army Corps engineers, etc., to finish this thing. And underneath Denver International Airport, it's like a small city. He says it is. It's like a small city. He says you have trucks that can enter an area in Kansas and travel all the way underground, drop off things at Denver International Airport underground, and then keep driving and come up in Grand Junction, Colorado. It says that's the tunneling system that exits under Denver International Airport. And they have a lot of places that are storing not only food and things like medicines, but also the National Archives. So if the deep state were going to do something, Denver International Airport would be an interesting target because all the shit that they've been up to and all the crap that they've done is being stored right here in Denver International Airport. Okay. Said so. It's interesting that that would come up, he says. Cliff High also says that something is supposed to happen today, which we know it didn't. The hard date was the 23rd or Sunday the 24th. Something that creates huge emotional response is supposed to happen this weekend. Today, tomorrow, or Sunday, I don't know what that is. He has a pretty good track record in the 80 percentile or nailing some of this stuff. So we'll see. And nothing happened that we know of anyway, right? So yeah, some of this stuff is not relevant anymore, but at least we can read it and say, hey, it didn't happen. Okay. So, and then Alex goes on to say, no one knows what that is at the moment, but we know that the deep state is wailing and they're attacking, they're lashing out at anything and anybody. He says now Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii, that is an incredibly disturbing and troubling event. And the more I look into it, the more disturbing and troubling it becomes. I do know what happened, but obviously there was a failure to protect that part of our country, or the protection was hacked, and therefore that part of our country was left vulnerable. You can't have it both ways, okay? Says so. That's what it looks like. And of course, there's the kids, 1,400 to 2,000 kids, There's all kinds of chatter that they were rescued. Well, why aren't they with their parents? Why are the kids still being held somewhere, if that's true? And if that is true, that they went door to door and rescued the kids, why didn't they rescue the parents as well? My question is, why wouldn't you see like all kinds of media? Maybe it's just a local thing. Like I think we would have seen, I'm sorry, if that would have happened to me and I lost my children or child or my spouse, like I would have been breaking down, bawling my head off. There would have been more people. I didn't see anything personally from people on social media where people were like really like losing it from this happening. Like I said, maybe there was, and I just haven't seen it because maybe it was more local in that area, but I didn't see anything. It just seems really strange, kind of. And then he says, you see, there's so many troubling things about this, and I just don't have any answers. But this won't go away. Someone's going to have to address it for sure. So there's that, and I just wanted to share with you where I'm at with that, he said. Says now there are a lot of people who are very frustrated. There are a lot of folks. Why is nothing happening? He says, we don't see the white hats doing much. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to share some stuff with you. And you have to understand that the United States, we the people, are in a bubble. We're in a bubble. We don't really know what's going on outside of our bubble. Our country, unless we specifically research what's going on outside our country, and there's not enough people doing that, we are captured in our own country. All of us are. That is slowly changing. Please understand that it is slowly changing. And I will address that here shortly. But I want to share with you things that are going on right now around the world. And you should be extremely excited about this information I'm going to be sharing with you. Watch Under the Dome. It's on Prime, I think. Amazon Prime. It's called Under the Dome. Totally reminds me of what we're in. There's tunnels under the ground inside the dome that lead out into the outside world. Okay? Everything in that series, yeah. I don't know so much about the alien part of it, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. So he says the U.S. Treasury signed off with Iraq for Iraq to detach itself from the U.S. dollar, which means they are now fully independent. Sorry. As you get older, it really sucks, doesn't it? Like everything hurts. In fact, I'm sorry because I've had to have a heating pad on my back for a long time. I've been having really bad shooting pains from the base of my neck across my shoulders, and literally I'm numb, like something's fusing in there, and I'm pretty much numb from my shoulder down to my shoulder blades, at least on my right side, a little bit on my left side, but yeah, so I'm dealing with that. So yay, it's so much fun getting older and having spinal stenosis and everything else. Anyway, he says the Prime Minister of Iraq told the Iraqi people that either today or sometime before Sunday they would have a new rate. That's this weekend, which was back in September. Now, the Prime Minister of Iraq also publicly addressed the World Bank, and we'll get into all that. That's a separate issue. He says we'll get into in a minute. He said, hey, we could really use your help in organizing development projects and programs in Iraq to rebuild our country after the wars that were fought here. And the World Bank responded by saying, we'd be more than happy to help you with the development of your country, and we strongly support your new rate and prosperity for you and the Iraqi people. So they're telegraphing that it's here, it's coming. Says that's number one. Other countries around the world, this includes Mexico. I don't believe Canada is a part of this yet because they're more captured than we are, sadly. But I know Mexico is moving in this direction, and many South American countries, the rest of Asia and the Middle East, and probably some European nations. He says, I don't think it's all of them, supposedly in the next 6-7 weeks. These countries are moving away from fiat currency and establishing their own currency, their own national currency as an asset-backed currency. And we've seen a lot of that in the last few months with the new year coming in, whether it's gold or silver assets that are in the country. He said everything will be Basel III compliant. They will have an asset to back up their currency. This is all supposed to be in place in the next 6 or 7 weeks. It says now, they have all been working on this since 2017. Since Trump came into office, so everybody was aware of the shift and the change that was going to happen. when Trump took office and the White Hats took office, they were aware of it. They all wanted to get to dump the Rothschild, Rockefeller, royal banking cartels. They were all done with that. So this was their opportunity to escape the clutches of this system. Now and in the next 6-7 weeks, we're going to see some dramatic shifts, which takes us November, December. That's really exciting news, he says. So they're doing this, and you'll have to research foreign newspapers to get this information, because here in this country, it's the same old bullshit. The dollar's strong. The dollar will be strong when all the money comes back from around the world and all the bonds come back. As long as those are coming back, the dollar will actually increase in value until all the bonds are here, and literally overnight, the Federal Reserve note will be worthless. It will be gone. That's how these things work. He says, the White Hats have a backup plan. That's the US note. But no one knows exactly how it's going to roll out. Exactly. And anyone who says they do, specifically from either part of the Q team or they work for the US Treasury, says, but everyone is on such a tight leash and such a tight, very, very strict non-disclosure address, NDA, that none of them, no one is talking until it's time to. He says, so we will get there. We may be the last ones who do, but we will get there. And I want to remind you that the United States of America has incredible wealth. He says, 80% of the gold in this country is still in the ground. 60% of silver is still in this country, is still in the ground. Oil, we have more oil than all of the Middle East together. Natural gas, we could sell natural gas to the whole world for the next 240 years. We have incredible wealth in this country. So backing up a new currency with an asset is absolutely not an issue. It's getting rid of the corrupt infrastructure in this country. That's why it hasn't happened yet. Zimbabwe, the Central Bank of Zimbabwe has created a pay system platform that is a gold-backed blockchain platform, and it's going to be used in all of Africa. All of Africa is going to use it because they no longer trust any of the Western governments or banks. So they wanted to be fully independent, and Zimbabwe stepped up because of the wealth of that country, and this thing is ready to go, actually. It says they haven't fully launched it because they're waiting for other countries in Africa to catch up. Okay. And I know the Zimbabwe dollar, I saw a picture of somebody holding a new dollar where it has like the QR code and it has the blockchain, like everything on it. It was really nice. Pretty. He says, but it's going to be independent. He says there will be connections to XRP and XLM and maybe some other systems likewise, other pay platforms, but the African system will be contained. They will have total control over it, and you can't blame them. Western nations have raped and pillaged Africa forever. Yes, they have. But that's encouraging news, okay? Because this is all coming about. Everything is being put into place and being implemented for the shift to trash the old fiat currency system once and for all. And a very good indication for that is so far this year, 5,800 banks have closed. Many of them are branch banks, but nonetheless, they're banks. 5,800 have already closed, and it's projected that another 4,000 will close between now and December 31st of 2023. So that tells you that the old system is done, all right? He says it's done. They can't fund it, and they can't They can't fuel it. He says they can't print anymore. He says they can't. He says, Jim Willie, the great Jim Willie, has information that in order to keep this thing from collapsing too early, that the Treasury has been secretly behind the back door paying some of our allies to go to the auction and buy Treasury bonds with our own money, just to keep this thing going so that it doesn't collapse too prematurely. Okay. They have a date in mind, obviously. They have a moment where they want to do the switch over. The system was so broken, so corrupt, that they're having to cheat in order to keep it afloat until the moment when they're ready to flip the entire financial system from the current banking cartel to the quantum system. So, says, we just have to hang on. Sometimes we just have to have those moments, those leaps of faith that, says, wow, maybe this is going to happen. Or I realize hope is not a strategy. I would be the first one to say that, but these are things that are actually happening. And this is an amazingly positive thing. So, when will it happen? I'm not exactly sure. But if the rest of the world is looking to have an asset-backed currency system in the next 6-7 weeks, that would mean at that particular point, assuming they all hit that target, that Nasara would be implemented. We're still waiting on it. Some say it's already been implemented. It could be they've begun to roll it out in a very tiny way, that this would go across the board, across the world, if everybody hits that 6-7 week target date. Now, I don't have any information regarding the states in America, he says, but I have to assume that behind the closed doors that they're working their ass off to make this happen. For example, when our PM of Iraq came to meet the U.S. Treasury, what isn't being reported is he also had a meeting with Trump, President Trump, CIC Trump. So they had a conversation, and that's only to me an extremely positive sign, because Trump has always said that the system needed to be more fair and it needed to be a level playing field across the world. Oh boy, okay. And so he would support this. Now, for those of us who are Americans, we have in many ways truly benefited from the rented currency, the Federal Reserve Note, and it is a rented currency, being the world's reserve currency. We have truly benefited from that. Things will be different on the other side of this, however. It will, in fact, be a level playing field. And what that means is that in order to be successful, we as a nation, we as a civilization, we as a people will have to go back to working hard, building great things, things that last, that are quality, and things that people want, like we used to do. Says that twice, like we used to do. We were the manufacturing hub of the planet. There was nothing we couldn't do, nothing. And the American people rose up to the occasion to make sure that happened, whether it was war or not. We figured it out. Because we weren't chained by media, by banks, by corruption. We didn't have those chains around us. So we could accomplish great things. And this will be said also for other nations. The French are very resilient and very, very resourceful. So are the British people. The Russians have learned how to survive everything. They're tough as nails, and they should never be underestimated. The Chinese are also very, very industrial people. The Vietnamese, wonderful people, very industrial. He says, They want to live and let live. And the one thing we all want is prosperity. We don't want to have to be a slave to survive and not have time to enjoy a life. See what I was talking about? And most of the world has been stuck in that rut because of the banking cartel. And he kind of just chuckles. He says, now, I'm mindful of what I'm talking about. Yes. Says, I was hacked. Yes, I was targeted. He says, hell, it might be happening right now again, but I don't fucking care. He says, this is bullshit. He says, this is bullshit. He says, whatever happens to me, I don't want my kids or your kids to have to live under this enslavement. There's just no way I can say that's the way it is. That's bullshit. We have to change the way it is because it does not work. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and the few don't give a damn about the many. So they have to be taken off the chessboard completely. Bye. They do. They're done. And they are done. They are done. Just because you see them walking around doesn't mean they have any real power at all. What's going on right now in the world, in countries, is military, industrial complex, and the dark intelligence agencies against the White Hats, Solar Warden, and the Space Alliance. That's the war, okay? Oh, and I gotta tell you guys, it was a couple weeks ago. I was in my room here and I heard this loud helicopter, and I'm looking up my back deck and I see it coming in. There was a Chinook military. I thought it came over our neighborhood and it was so low. I thought it was going to land in our neighborhood. I think it might have landed in the wheat field in our neighborhood yonder. I should have driven out there just to see where it landed, but I didn't. But that was we've never seen that before. And I was telling my friend that who lives across the river, and she was like, it's funny you say that because like just the other day, like we saw military aircraft around the area. And her husband's retired from the military. Um, and even he said, like, that's not training. Like, that's not normal. You just don't do that. They don't train in rural neighborhoods, okay? They don't. So something was going on. He says, it hasn't spilled out. Lahaina was probably the first open attack that we've seen. Most of it has been going on behind the scenes, but that's the war. That's what's going on now because there are no more deals. Military jet. Oh yeah, he was talking about this. He says, military jet. He says, I don't know if you can hear it. I just love those guys. So yeah, while he was talking, there was a military aircraft that had flown over his house too. So there's been a lot of military in the skies in many places the last few weeks. He says, so Abraham Lincoln once said that most people are about as most happy as they make up their minds to be. And he laughs and he says, and that's absolutely true. You are only as happy as you make up your mind to be. Okay. So your happiness is on you. Your perspective, your way of life is on you. If you just want to stay in that circle, circling that drain, thinking, oh my God, it's over, it's done, it's the end, yada, 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 he says, then that's where you're going to be. Absolutely. He says that's where you're going to be until somebody comes up and smacks you on the back of the head and says, yo, wake up, okay? I want everybody on this planet to wake up. I realize that's magical thinking. It's just not going to happen, okay? That everybody does. He says, but never be afraid to have a leap of faith. all the things that are going on, all the movement, all of the disclosure, the shifts that are happening inside each of us, is that the core of our being, our soul, is waking us up. It's our souls waking us up to see what's been going on. When we fell into time on this planet and we got caught in the reincarnational cycle of control, and we had our memories wiped from the previous lifetimes, we constantly had to start over and over and over again. We're never going to have to do that again. Understand that. From this moment on, if you choose to stay and reincarnate on Earth, whether it's here, remaining in third, or even in the fourth and fifth, every time you come in, you will come in fully aware of who you are and what you are, okay? Because that's the way of the universe. That's the way of the universe. It says, if you're a soul in this universe, yes, you have lessons and you learn and you test different things out and you make mistakes to find out whether they work or not. You hold belief systems to see if they hold true. If they are in alignment with source or the frequency of the universe, all those things we do and create and choose. But there have been some captured solar systems where those rules were taken off the table and someone else substituted very strict control mechanisms in order to feed off of us and to have us to create a specific reality for them because they could not do it themselves. Bastards. Bastards. I'm glad you're leaving and you've been gone. That's why they needed us. This is why they're terrified, because the minute we realize we can do anything, absolutely anything, and we figure that out and we're like, oh, why are we in this matrix? Why were we so trapped or cracked, he says, I don't know, and unhappy, angry, frustrated, feeling unloved? He says, oh, because of them, those bastards, because of their programming, because of their mental manipulation and soul trapping and constant hacking us as souls. What do you think humanity would do if we all figured that out? Bastards. All it would take is for the planet to turn its gaze on these people with a glance, just a glance, and we see that's happening right now, right? In June, like Robert De Niro can't go outside, and that's not really him, but like, yeah, certain people cannot walk down the street without people heckling them, okay? They would vanish. They would implode on themselves. It says because of the fear. You see, they're the ones that have all the fear. The only way they wouldn't have fear would be for them to project or to fall on us to convince us that it's our fault. Make it believe it's all us. That's what they did, and we bought it. Many of us bought it, hook, line, and sinker. But now we're figuring it out. Now we're remembering, he says, who we are as warriors and sages and warrioresses, he says, and goddesses. We're all remembering, and it's now, and it's important to remember that this is not about the physical. This is about the soul, okay? This is where oh my gosh, I can't, okay, focus. This is where the focus goes within to the spiritual journey. It's really important to remember that. It's us and Source Creator, us and the Holy Spirit, okay? Us and the isness, whatever word you want to use. That's where we are right now. That's the connection. That's the connection. And the minute we relink and reintegrate and we move into that place of wow, says, and we remember what it's like to trust source. When we look back at this, we will watch the whole thing burn, because he says, and I'm purposely using the expression burn because they created their own hell. Okay? They created their own hell. We just no longer choose to participate. So we're leaving, and they're left with the hell that they themselves created. And we have to just let it be. Let it be. Sayonara. He says, adios. Vianadu. Vianadu? I don't know what he said. Ciao bella. He says, see you later. And just then, and just let them burn. And let source sort that shit out. We have other things to do, and that's to take the human race through third and into fourth and then into fifth. And along that journey, we become part of the huge galactic family. Yay! There are more benevolents than there are regressives. It's 5 to 6 to 1. He says, and we finally have all their attention. We do. So don't lose hope. He says, don't get, I can't say frustrated, because I do as well. He says, but don't be afraid to make a leap of faith. Source has this. He says, I'm trying to refrain from saying God, because everyone refers to gods of the Bible, and they were extraterrestrial, folks. It says, we know this now. But source creates dimensions, and none of the extraterrestrials can do that. Just source, and we're all part of source. End of period. End of story, period. Sorry. He said, exclamation point, exclamation point. And smiley face. He says, okay, that's who we are. So trust that connection, work on that. Remember now at this particular point, yes, there may be some bumps, but it's all part of the process of change. The world, by letting go of what we don't want, and we don't want it. We don't want to live the way we have been. So as that system shudders and collapses and turns to dust, we're going to have leaps of faith to move into the new systems. Now, the new systems are survival. In other words, having a monetary system is survival. There's a great talk about great wealth for humanity. Anyone who's paying taxes will get it back. Those who were issued a birth certificate or social security card or something of that nature, whether here in the States or in other countries or worlds, he says the bonds that were posted in your name that the bankers were stealing or trading, all that money will come back to those individuals, and debts would be forgiven because it's the old system. Yes, that's important. And there's, I found some songs on Spotify. I like the group Sheppard. They're out of Australia. They sang the Geronimo song, and I love that song. But they have one too on that same album, and it's called "The Best Is Yet to Come." And I can't believe they had a song called "The Best Is Yet to Come." So I downloaded all their album. I loved it. And then I found another group called Wild. They're really good. They're like a folk group, but they have some really good songs that are like happy and upbeat. And there's one called Silver and Gold. There's one called Just Be, and then there's one called Here We Go. And what's weird is, let me tell you this. This is okay. This is really weird. I had a dream back on May 19th. I had a dream. I know it was like really good. I can't remember parts of it. All I can remember is the song of that song, Here We Go, was playing in my dream. And I woke up from that and I wrote it down on a sticky note. And then yesterday, Don Jr. posted basically like the dam picture is about to bust, and he specifically said those words, "Here we go," and I was like, oh, holy shit! Like I had a premonition dream. Oh my god, that was just so cool to see that. I had to tell my friend. I was so excited. I was like, I had a dream about that. I heard that song, and it is specifically those words. And she's like, nothing's a coincidence, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm still a skeptic with that, but I have to tell myself, yes, nothing's a coincidence. So I saw that coming. Anyway, I thought that was cool. But um okay, let's move on. um yeah, he says, yes, that's important. He says, but the money never makes anybody happy. It can't be about the money. It has to be, okay, you're no longer in survival. Absolutely. And like I said, we're getting to that point. But what do you do with your life? What is it that you want? Buying all the homes, buying all the cars, buying the boats. He says buying the private jets. That's out here. Um, he says that's not inside. Okay. Yeah. And I'm thinking as he's saying this, like, it's about nature, it's about animals, it's the little things, it's the sunsets, the flowers, your friends, your family. Those are the important things in life. Okay. And he says, we are jumping into another dimension. And as I'm listening to this, transcribing, I started getting like the ringing in my ears. And that usually tells me, like, this is true. He says, we are jumping into another dimension. You're not going to be taking your private jet, your yacht with you. Okay. You can't even take an American Express card with you into fourth. So the purpose is to focus ourselves individually and aligning ourselves with source, with higher frequencies, making a personal commitment to yourself to be the best individual you know yourself to be, and to make every effort to be authentic, to be genuine, to give from the heart, to show compassion, to feel compassion, to be compassion, to teach when you can, to comfort when you can, to listen when you have to. This is where we are now. This is the work. The other things, they're going to sort themselves out. We have to let the old system just burn. We will not realize how destructive it's been for maybe another 5, 6, or 7 years. At that point, we will have enough information. There will be enough disclosure of not only our history as a race, but the last 4 to 5,000 years. Then we will know, everybody will know, just what the system was. And we will all be thrilled to be on the other side of that. He says, now, this isn't just humans doing this, there's a lot of help. Okay. Um, there's a lot of help from benevolent star systems, benevolent sky families that have seen this process before. Not necessarily jumping dimensions, but civilizations going through this dark night of the soul. And instead of falling back into the same system, they actually rise above the system and separate themselves from the system. And when they do that, the system itself dies because there's no one feeding it any longer. Because of their shift in consciousness, the system starves itself. It just dies. It feeds on itself and then it just collapses and then it's gone. That's where we are right now as a human society. That's what's happening. The system's already starving and it's beginning to feed on itself. We got to let it do that, okay? We don't offer any help, Okay, no band-aids. Let them bleed out. It's time. Absolutely. And it's starting. It's starting. We're seeing it happen. Now, many of these organizations that have been controlled by the deep state, you have to understand that there have been and are a lot of good people stuck in these systems, and they used these good people to be basically in front of everybody. So we would never truly know how dirty and corrupt these systems were. Such as certain intelligence agencies, they had really, really good people doing the job protecting America, protecting American citizens here and abroad, doing what they were supposed to do. While on the other hand, there was another group, very dark, very nefarious, very service to self, that was wreaking havoc all over the world. And we never heard about those parts of the system. But nonetheless, there are a lot of good people stuck in a broken system. And we have to recognize that. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, okay? He says, so we have to be mindful that there will be people as these institutions collapse. Uh, there, they will be there will be really good people who will come out of those systems that want to be part of humanity, that are part of humanity, that have never left humanity. So we have to be mindful of that as well. It says, humanity is, to my knowledge, has never been in this place where we are today. This is as far as humanity has been able to take it without a dark intervention to sabotage the whole thing. At this point, there is no dark force strong enough to sabotage this. The only ones who could sabotage the system now would be ourselves, and we shouldn't do that. We should remain focused on what it is that we want. We know what we want, what we don't want, but we have to keep thinking about what we do want, and we need to keep having leaps of faith and encouraging each other to continue to reach for that which we want. To unconditionally be responsible for oneself without being coerced by some higher authority. Absolutely. We, the people of planet Earth, in order to form a more perfect union, do solemnly swear to be loyal to one another, to protect one another, so that all of us will remain free. And I don't know where that just came from. He says, I just don't know where that came from. He kind of laughed. He says, wow. But that's the goal. That's the mission. Okay. The rest of it will take care of itself. As far as the technology and healing beds and all of that stuff, they are real. They do exist. Now, I know there are a lot of healing modalities out there, and they offer some relief. And some will actually do a very good job of reversing illness or a handicap. It says, but the true beds are 3D holographic. The true beds are 3D holographic, and they can regrow limbs and organs. If they can't do that, then they're not a true bed. He says, end of story, period, exclamation point. And those healing beds do exist. The pushback is profound. For example, do you know that there are only 2 countries in the world that allow pharmaceutical companies to advertise and sell drugs to consume? That's New Zealand and the United States. Those are the only 2 nations that will allow pharmaceutical companies to advertise their garbage, their crap to the people. Do you know why cable TV still exists to this day? Because their advertising budget is 75 cents of every dollar they get for advertising comes from pharmaceutical companies. So every dollar of advertising, the cable companies get 75 cents of it. Comes from the pharmaceutical companies. Otherwise, we wouldn't have cable TV. It would all be satellite or internet. It wouldn't be cable, okay? I don't realize how many people still, like, why would you still have cable? Most people are on the internet nowadays. But anyway, that's what he said. Um, for those of us who live in areas where there's only cable, the prices are just ridiculously outrageous. But that's why. So you see, there's all these things going on in the background that many people aren't aware of, and it's complicated. This system has been, he says, it's like an octopus, it has just infiltrated everything to control and manipulate to ensure its own survival because it cannot generate its own frequency. It has to feed off us, and that's exactly what it's been doing. It has been feeding off of us. Uh, myocarditis has become an epidemic. Medical doctors would report that they would see one, maybe two at the most in a year. Now they're seeing one or two a week, and the only common denominator is which means we have a lot of people who are ill, very ill. For those of you who like to fly and fly all the time, you want to be mindful. Many pilots are coming out saying they are no longer taking any more this. Many of them are sick already. They're having issues because of the myocarditis. And in fact, the FAA has already tweaked the medical standards for pilots. They've expanded them to allow those who have myocarditis to fly, even though there's huge issues with that. Many airlines are petitioning to only have one pilot in the box instead of two because they don't have enough pilots. They just don't have enough pilots. So you want to be mindful. You're going to get on an airplane. If you're going to get on an airplane, this is my opinion. If you're going to get on an airplane, make sure you have to absolutely be on that airplane, okay? And we see all the Boeing planes like breaking down. Maybe it's time to go back to airships. Yeah. And have like travel luxuriously in these flying hotels. Wouldn't that be great? Oh my God, I can't wait till they bring that back. Because you just don't know. And I'm not one to play Russian roulette with anything, he says. So you want to be mindful of that, all right? There's a lot of things going on. You have to remember that the intention behind 2020 to 2023 was depopulation. This was the intention. This next round, hopefully, it won't go anywhere. Is depopulation. They're not interested in fixing anything. They're interested in removing us from the equation so they can stay in power. I can't say it any simpler than that. He says, and if you have your own opinion, that's fine. That's fine. He says, but I would caution you to truly know who runs this planet and what they are, because they're not us, ladies and gentlemen. They're not us. Says they're not members of the human race, whether they're in a human body or not. They're not us. Absolutely. Says, okay, I would love to do some questions. Got a few questions. First question, what type of new opportunities, i.e. jobs, do you foresee coming for the public in the next 1 or 2 years after the truth comes out? And Alex says, well, what we're gonna do, he says, what we're gonna have to, like in many ways, is completely rebuild, like our educational system. We're gonna have to completely rebuild it. We're gonna need new teachers. We're gonna need to expand the classroom to include real life. He says, back in the 40s, 50s, even early 60s, you had home economic classes. Those were some of my favorite classes. And you had auto shop. You had all these other conservative groups that were in high schools. You could learn to cook, make meals. You could learn to work on cars or engines or aircrafts, conservation. He says you could learn how a forest works and forest rangers, and you would get school credit for that, and you could graduate and then move to college to pursue any of those things you really, really liked. But now you're going to have computers, rocketry. We're going to have free energy devices, Tesla coils. There's going to be all kinds of opportunities. True wireless satellite systems, communications. There's going to be all kinds of things that are going to be new that will have to be integrated into society. So it's unlimited. It says then, of course, there will be exploration, space exploration, planetary archaeology. God, that'd be fun. Will be a huge field, and that will come about with the participation of not only Solar Warden, but also in Space Force, but also with benevolent star groups, where they will give us a tour and we will go down to the surface of specific asteroids, meteors. Yes, I said meteors, burnt out suns, dead suns, planets, etc. And we will explore those things and the life that's there. Study their DNA. I mean, it's unlimited. He says it's unlimited in the possibilities and the things that people can do. All right. And of course, there's the conservative-ship of our own planet. Conservative-ship of our own planet. There's cleaning the oceans. That has to be done. When we've talked about that in our past webinars about the technology and the minerals that have been brought into our solar system. That will help clean and neutralize the toxins and radiation things in our oceans. It says there's also landfills and dumps, uranium mines and things like that that have to be neutralized. So they're not a threat. There's all kinds of things that need work, cleaning up. And who would not want to be a part of that? Yeah, because you know you're getting rid of that shit that's been hurting humanity forever. I mean, that's how you truly get to know your planet, is to actually work on your planet, not just to live on it, go to a job and then come home, okay? The only knowledge you really have is that which you read in a textbook or watch on a documentary. But unless you're out in the field doing these type of things day in, day out for a period of time, you know about it, but you don't really know about it, all right? It's one thing to get your hands dirty and to be a part of the land and to be a part of wildlife and to understand it, see it, feel it for yourself, to bond to it as a soul, to God, to Source, everywhere in all living things. So there's that. It says there's astrophysics, which will be taken to a whole new quantum level about how it works, how dimensions work, what are portals, what are they really, what are time loops, all those things that will just fascinate even us vintage people. He says, that grew up with sci-fi movies when they first got started. Many of us have been fascinated by all of this. And then there will be meeting other extraterrestrial races and learning about who they are and sharing about ourselves and who we are, you know, going through the process of healing, etc. There's that. And then there will be the uh, inaugurational ceremony, which I talked about many, many years ago, that when Earth is brought into a council and or to the galactic community, and this is of any planet, there is like a ceremony, and that ceremony revolves around us putting together many different components of our life here, of living organisms on the planet and representing all the different tribes of man. And then we would not only load the tribes of man and the best of our best, but also many of the living entities that are here, such as animals, and at this point it will include Bigfoot or Sasquatch, and at some point the people that live in the inner earth, other life forms that we don't know anything about that we'll soon be discovering. We would be able to put on a starship and we would go to a planet with a great hall, and we would be introduced as new members of the galactic community. Okay, that's going to be fascinating. It's going to be great. And it would be the first time we would be recognized as an equal as opposed to, oh boy, those troublemakers. Says, they can't even live with themselves. All of that, all of that would be gone. Okay. That stigma would be gone. And we would parade in front of them, the galaxy, in this hall. And there's hundreds of thousands of different races and their representatives. And we would present ourselves as Terrans. That's how this works, and that takes years and years to put together. So there will be that level of involvement as well. And they'll be cleaning the atmosphere, getting rid of all the chemtrails and chemicals and particles of the shit they've been spraying for 25, 26, 28 years, whatever it is. He says, removing it from the atmosphere, re-educating our farmers and ourselves to electro farming, using Tesla coils or Tesla rods, and using the ether energy from the universe that's all around everything to nurture and nourish our plants, nourish our plants so they not only grow faster but bigger. We constantly have enough food to not only feed ourselves on the planet, but also maybe to export to other star nations. He says, who knows? The other colonies that the Dark Space Force and Solar Warden weren't a part of, reintegrating those with Earth again so that they would not be a separate entity. We would reintegrate those outposts back with Earth civilization and open up communication and dialogue and reintegrate them with us and us with them so that there would be travel and trade going back and forth to some of these other colonies that were started. Everything will be a great deal of work, but it won't feel like it because it will be such an inspiration to know and to explore all these things that have been hidden from us so that when the time comes, you go because you want to, not because you have to, but because you want to. You've done as much as you want. You've fulfilled your checklist, your bucket list, and all your kids and grandkids and great grandkids, they're all good. They're all set, and you're ready for the next leg of the journey, which would be fourth dimension and fifth dimension. He says it's going to be whatever you want it to be, you know. He says we just have to have faith that this is all going to be working out because it is. It's going to work out, That was, he says that was a long answer. I'm sorry. That was a long answer. Next question. Alex, please ask the A's about Enki and Enlil. I've always had a very bad feeling about both of them and their entire family. These beings are tricksters with technology we cannot even imagine. To invite these entities in to help may really backfire. So are we going to consent to interfere after they've caused the problems? And he says, I'm not aware that we are giving anybody consent to come back. And I know Elena talks a lot about that. Like she's involved with Ia and she speaks very highly of him. And I don't know. After I read the Lost Book of Inky, I have my questions too. I have my red flags going about that. Yeah, but Alex says out of the two, Ia has been the most friendly and the most caring. However, he had to follow orders. He was not king and he was not first prince either. So it says, but I think it would be best for the Anunnaki to stay at a distance. Absolutely. And just observe. Let us do this on our own as much as we can. And if we choose to need help, allow us to choose our own mentors. And of course, that will come about by meeting our other star nations. Okay. Yes, the Anunnaki have left a very bad taste in our mouth. A lot of things went wrong, and no one's really taking responsibility for it. So thank you very much, but please stay at a distance and let's just see what happens. I think it's imperative that we learn that we at least have the desire to stand on our own. I think you'll find that when we realize the technology that we already have on the planet that's been suppressed, that we can figure out a lot of this on our own. We can do it. When it comes to the actual history of our solar system and humankind and our galaxy, I think says we're going to have to learn on those. Um, and who are the constant travelers? Who do the mapping? Who do the exploring? Who do the terraforming? I think those would be incredible, great allies to have at that point. But let us figure it out as much as we can on our own. He says, because that will empower us, and that's what we need. We need to be empowered. And if we can do this ourselves, then there is nothing we can't accomplish. He says, and I include the A's in this. I do. They've even said this themselves about, they want to know who we are when we're not being manipulated. Next question. In the Tartaria buildings, there were no bathrooms found, which could be signs people didn't eat because they were in a much higher density as we. Do we stop needing food when we move into higher densities and therefore will not need bathrooms? And Alex says, well, I don't know if that's it or the only example I can give you is the A's. They are fruitarians. Now, I can't speak for other races, but I can speak for the A's. They're fruitarians, and it's my understanding that when their body eliminates, the suit that they wear absorbs the waste. It reconverts it, or it sheds it into the air and the atmosphere, literally neutralizing it. The level of oxygen in the air neutralizes it. So that's their system. They don't need toilets. I was the only one in that particular mothership that had a flushing toilet. He says, because that's what I knew. And when I was there for the 91 days, I had to have it. I may have been the only one. He says, for all I know, I'm on the Andromedan candid camera. He says, and he just laughed and he said, and I don't know either at this point. So there's that. I can't speak for those other races. I think if you're in a physical body, nutritionally, you need to have something, some kind of nutrition for the body itself, whatever that is. But I can't answer to that at the moment. He says, Tartaria was a very advanced civilization, and they weren't us. That's clear. They weren't us. We may have lived with them and around them, but those who built those structures and lived in those structures were not us. But that's for another webinar, he says. Says, thank you for being here. Thank you for helping. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for supporting me for all these years. We will get through this. Mornay said there were no failure points, and I absolutely believe him. So the tests that come, changes, the obstacles, that's just what they are. They're tests and changes and they're obstacles. Doesn't mean we fail. It just means we rise above it and we keep moving forward together. And if we can't move together, then we hold the rope and we stand open. We're reaching back and pulling those with us that need help, okay? Isn't that the true meaning of hold the line? hold the line, helping each other's out. Leave no human being behind. That should be our motto. We don't leave any human beings behind. If they choose to stay behind, that's on them. But if they don't want to be left behind, then we give them a hand forward. Okay? Guys, take care, be safe, breathe. He said, okay, breathe. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. God bless you. See you in 2 weeks. So there we go. From September 22nd, 2023. Whew. Okay. So yeah, if you have a chance to go on Spotify, or even if you have Amazon, sometimes you can go under the songs and go play. I can't do the link from my Spotify because it only brings you to Spotify itself. But if you look up the group Wild and look up that song, Here We Go. Okay. And the Silver and Gold. Fabulous song. It's very happy. It's very upbeat, and I love it. I love listening to it because it does. It makes me happy and it keeps me going. So if you need to pick me up, go listen to that song. So thank you so much for listening to me today on Cosmic Metamorphosis. Again, I'm sorry I haven't been able, if you've sent an email, I haven't been able to read comments on anything the last couple months, like I said. So hopefully I'll get to that today. I love all of you. I appreciate you watching. Give it a likes up button. Yeah, I mean, things are moving forward. We're into June. But I did say this stuff was going to last for the rest of the year, didn't I? So I think June, July, when a lot of people were talking about having the trials, we're going to see some of the darker things starting to come out. Okay. And then once everything comes out about what they've been doing to the kids, to the children, yeah, we probably, I'm not sure if we're going to have an election or not. Remember the 5th of November. We'll see. We'll see if we do or not. I mean, we already know Trump's going to win, right? So, anyway, I know the future is going to be fabulous. I'm still kind of stuck here in northern Idaho. I am looking for places in Colorado, but I might be here for another year because if we're not out of here by fall, we're pretty much stuck here through the winter. So, anyway, I'm still where I am, and I appreciate you guys listening. Continue to be that lighthouse. Shine your light, speak the truth, so we can guide anybody else left there in the darkness of that vast ocean, guide them home. Okay, where we go one, we go all. And I love all of you. Thank you so much for watching. You are my family. You're my soul tribe, and I have missed you. And I will try to do a few other videos for you in the next couple weeks. So I love you. Big hugs to all of you. Mwah. Love you. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and week. Bye.